A very good evening to each and every one of you, and I want to welcome you guys to Alliance on the Move. I am your host this evening, Sherrod Duncan, and I'm privileged to be the General Secretary of the Alliance for Change Party. I have with me the leader of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Kemraj Ramjitan, no stranger to any of us, any of you. And then we have also no stranger, equally, the Vice Chairman of the Alliance for Change, Ricky Deodorine Ramsurup, is here with us. Guys, welcome. Another program, another Saturday.
Thank you very much. Yes, another program to deal with some topical developments and all of that.
Thank you.
Excellent.
We continue from last week, and we're going to continue the pace. So I hope that all are ready.
Excellent. And, you know, I like to say on another program, Pace and Power, and I'm happy the Vice Chairman says is a continuation of the pace, because that's one thing you can look forward to always with the Alliance for Change. There's a lot of pace bowling. Cameron, let's start right there, because during this week, the week gone by, we had a meeting of the ABC EU countries. This is the Americans, the British, the Canadians, and the European Union also was there. And a lot of issues were laid out. They listened to us, we listened to them in turn, and it was quite a beautiful, extraordinary meeting.
Oh, indeed. I'm glad that it was arranged, and very surprisingly, I saw all of them there. Ms. Miller from the British High Commission, Terrier from the US Ambassador.
Correct, Mr. Berman. Yeah.
Canada, and the European Union, Eliza.
Yeah.
Eliza, is it? And it was a very frank exchange of views. They wanted to know our concerns, and we let them know about our concerns, especially preparations for the elections coming up in November next year, and constitutional reform, how quick that should get completed, or if it is not completed, what then, and a number of issues pertaining to also what is transpiring in relation to reform at the electoral level. Because remember,
right,
the Carter Center from America, the European Union Commission that was here, they had an observer mission, and they had made a number of recommendations, along with the Canadians and the British too. So they supported some of these observer missions, and they had come up with very strong recommendations for a new list by getting this elections commission better equipped to handle elections.
correct,
And a lot more, even including what we are saying, the technological thing to ensure that one person does not vote 2 times or 3 times and so on. And that's the biometrics development that we would like to see implemented. And quite frankly, I think we did impress them as to what we were talking about. And they themselves would like to see very much the free and fair elections happen in Ghana. And they are also of the view too that better governance. They were pretty, conversant with the United Nations human rights scrutiny of the government. And they felt that we have, as a country and a state, to do better. And opposition must be involved. Opposition must be involved. And we indicated as much to them that the opposition must be involved, especially in issues such as the national security issue with Brazil, with Venezuela, and making contacts with our friends Brazil and other CARICOM nations, and a whole lot of things. So it was an extraordinary meeting of our AFC executive members and the ABC EU countries. And I'm supposed to complete a report as to the meeting itself. And I think I will do that because I was a little busy myself. But we should do a report and send it out to the press.
correct. I think for accuracy, the member who represented the European Union was the deputy head of delegation here, Evelina Melbardi. I hope I'm calling that surname correctly. Evelina Melbardi. We were privileged to have her. She was part of that very robust delegation. And Vice Chair Ramsarup, you were the person who kind of laid out some of the recommendations that were proffered by the various observer missions that we had. And lots of them we have not touched on since 2020 because we know, like Emraj has always said, for the PPP, it's just about putting an X on a piece of paper and dashing it in the ballot box. That is democracy for the PPP.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sharad, I wanted to thank the European Union because they had a meeting, a roundtable meeting, where they had 26 recommendations from their report, and I couldn't remember the specific date, but I think it was last year, early last year. They had a roundtable to follow up on the recommendation they made, and I really want to commend the European Union for doing such because they were tracking government to see how they are implementing those recommendations. But of course, of the 26, they probably only touched on number 2. Oh yes, we can working on the rest. We can work on the rest. And some of those recommendations are the biometrics, the re-registrations and so on of the voters list, the reconstruct of GCOM. Some of the laws within ROPA need to be changed. The delay of election results. These are all recommendations that was made by the European Union. So you want that they want to check exactly the status update, and this is one of our concerns. We raise it. CARICOM also made some recommendations. They also made a similar recommendation by saying they should have a new voters list. Right? Their exact word they use is a re-registration of voters in Guyana household in Guyana. And so we are anxiously await to see what's the process. Your continuous registration is different from household registration. We must understand that. And the biometric system, we have enough time now to start it now to implement that system. It is not expensive, as it may proceed to say, but you need some time to do it, and now is the time to start it. And so these are some of the concerns, other than to have the reconstruct of the GCOM. I think there's one of the recommendation I made is to have a reconstruct of GCOM because you need to have an input coming from civil society, and not only the political parties, but you wanted a mix of more balance in that commission to be an independent body rather than being a political, steward of the GCOM and the electoral process. So
so it's a lot of. Go ahead.
Right. So when we were discussing this meeting, some of the matters of Parliament also raised. Like the committees of the security committee was not meeting. I never met actually. I was just reading the report from Kaiju News. They did a very excellent piece on cameras there. At the same time, the meeting was happening in Sharad. I don't know if you recall when we checked our social media, they had a big bus of 2,300 kg of cocaine.
Yes, a lot of cocaine.
So our concern here was security, the way that they are operating. The Foreign Relations Committee after the Venezuela thing is not meeting.
Correct. So a lot of that happening. But Ricky, just before you go there, I want to spend just a little more time on what's happening in relation to the next election, because that next election is already being rigged for all intents and purposes. And by the time you get to the ballot box and trying to get stick to look to see what they're doing night time, the thing would have already been done. The kinds of changes that we have seen thus far to any aspect of legislation or otherwise at GCOM all favors the PPP. For instance, this whole change in the residency requirement, which led to the amendment of the Representation of the People Act, or you call it ROPA. We also had some changes to the National Registration Act. And we know now, we have a broader picture why they pursued some of these things, especially the residency requirement. You had some changes also to the Registration of Births and Death Act. Death Act also, right? We saw some key changes at the GCOM level, not many, but just a couple. And then we see the advent of this whole e-ID card system. On the national stage right now, we're talking about the the new persons who will be added to our labor force locally here. And Kemraj, you waded into some of this, the Bangladeshis, the Cubans, and now they're talking not only about importing nurses, but doctors also. So we're watching it, but there's a whole gamut of things, as you said, Ricky, laid out by the EU, laid out by the Americans, never even the CARICOM election report that they ain't touching, they ain't looking at. Right? You know, all this talk of democracy and so on, guys.
No, it is a scary development, especially that one with the amendment to the births and deaths registration of people here. Tushao now just got to do an affidavit in one of those region 1 or region 8 or 7 area. And the Tushao says in the affidavit that I know this fella. He was born in Guyana 20 years ago, and he's Guyanese. And that affidavit, literally, you carry to the Burtson department, and that person will get a birth certificate that he's a born Guyanese.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, you had to get a court order, and you had to file an application, and you will be cross-examined and by the magistrate to find out indeed. And you had to get what is called the record of an elder who know that you were born here at that hospital and you went to that school and all of that. All of that is now gone.
Yeah.
So the Tushao in that area. This is now to put on the voters list thousands of Venezuelans who are born in Venezuela, not Guyanese, who are Venezuelans actually, but because they're now living in Guyana, they're going to find themselves with this Tushao affidavit stating that they were born here in Guyana. And then they're going to go to the registry department there, get a birth certificate, and then they will then become ID card owners, and with that, they could vote. Now, these regional democratic councils, as we know, Region 1, 7, 8, and 9, they have had pretty close voters count for opposition and government. As a matter of fact, I think one of the regions, the APNU AFC, won a parliamentary seat by just one vote. One vote. Now, when you start doing all this mischief with it to show and all body, and then you send it to a fella at the registrar's office there, and he simply give you a birth certificate, that is rigging long before the elections is held. And that is what the PPP is good at. And we got 40,000 Venezuelans now in Guyana. That's the record that was recently given. We feel that that is going to be abused. Secondly, we notice where they're bringing in a whole set of other people, Bangladeshis, 500 people who are going to work as medical officers and whatever else.
5,000.
That is serious business. And we feel that this thing, you know, when they started doing this thing, they didn't come to Parliament to talk about it. It was behind the scenes. And because of a leaked document from the Foreign Affairs Ministry that I managed to collect, it then went viral. These people seem to want to only do the mischief underneath like that. And then when they get caught now, they say, oh yes, we long time, they do it since January and so on. And they didn't want to tell us anything. This month is almost April already. So they were doing their mischief behind. And then they take some company called Sigma. We don't know whether Sigma know anything about registration or going and get people from Bangladesh and all of that. We don't know anything. So they want them to start manipulating the system. And that is tremendously sensitive for race relations in Guyana, because I know one ethnicity not going to take it easy if they try all this mischief. And it could be dire for the country, because we can then get into an explosive situation. Moreover, when you start doing that to Venezuelans, it could be what is called a soft invasion by Maduro into Essequibo. And so the man ain't gonna fire any gun. He would have take it over because we got 40,000 people there and the PPP want them to vote, get them registered, and those same Venezuelans could say Venezuela is part of the Essequibo is part of Venezuela. Where are we going to be there at that point in time? So this stupidity of the PPP in wanting to do all this mannishness, you understand me? All this skullduggery could be to the detriment of a Essequibo going to the Venezuelans. Because these people, if they get 40,000 there, they could then say that, you remember, the decree that Maduro made, we want to live that decree now. And they could start voting and say, we would like to secede. All kind of stupidness that I am anticipating that could be damaging to our country simply because this nonsense that Jagdeo now wants to make them, and not only Jagdeo, the entire PPP wants to
Correct.
give
Correct.
certificates, birth certificates.
You know, as we wrap up our discussion on the engagement by the Alliance for Change with the diplomatic community quite recently, especially the ABC EU countries, in addition to that, Ricky, you were going into another area. They are very strong on seeing a more robust GCOM. I mean, some of them, like Mr. Borman, have been here with us a little while and still can't wrap their mind around, you know, the workings of GCOM. They want to see a more robust National Assembly as well. You know, I think we can fairly say they're concerned that Parliament doesn't meet as regular as other democracies. You know, we love to tout we're so democratic now, and we brought back democracy and all that in 1992 or in 2020. But there's a strange democracy we have here, Kemraj, Ricky.
Yeah, look, this whole point here about the parliament and the way it's operate, it is really in they came for after the budget, and from the budgets are now 1.146 trillion. They have not come back to parliament to discuss matter of urgency. Similarly, they have we have heard recently the president touting that he will come back for supplemental in parliament. Now, that is only when they will come back to Parliament, when the supplemental time comes. Now, this is only the first quarter here, but just started the first quarter. Sorry, we are going to be closing off on the first quarter, and you are already finished $1.146 trillion. Sure, I wanted to add the point here on the security that my concern here that Kemato was talking about. We are going to get into a state of what you call transnational crime. Meaning that the people that are coming in here will not going to be able to develop Guyana here. They're only going to come. Those are the people who will be coming here who can survive in the country like Venezuela. Those persons that will be coming in from Bangladesh, we don't know the screening process because those people can have a certificate that says, yes, I'm a qualified doctor. Well, we all know the person who can make certificate here in the PP government.
Yeah.
To manufacture the certificate. So similarly, that can happen in Bangladesh. I'm a doctor, Dr. Ricky Ramsaroop. But guess what? I'm wanted by some Interpol like we had recently. They're sitting next to top minister offices in head of security compound, national security.
They got high
I
access,
don't
yeah.
know if the man was wanted for Interpol. What kind of screening process? This is where our country's security, this is where my major concern is because we are looking for vote, looking for people to part of the list, but we're not taking care of security. Our citizens are insecure, and I think this is what the diplomats, Sharad, are very much concerned about.
No, that is true. We had to tell them how they are breaking all the guardrails of democracy. Parliament, as Cherry Jagan used to teach us in the PPP, must be active, always in action. You know, we have a parliament now that sits for 60, 70 days, nothing going. And when you would want also parliamentary committees,
Yeah, to
like
function.
the Foreign Relations Committee, the Natural Resource Committee, the Security Sector Committee, either they are dysfunctional and they don't work at all, like Mr. Ben's Parliamentary Security Committee. The first time in 2020 when they win the elections, we go and name him as chairman of the committee, and he never, ever after convene another meeting. Whereas when I was public security minister, they called Mr. Silal Prasad and cross-examine him for days. They called Gladwin Samuels and cross-examine him connection with prison matters for days. They call and the fire chief, Mr. Vernon Gentle, and they want the policy. They want to know how much hose there in this engine, the fire thing, and that and that and that. We now don't have one opportunity to find out what is happening to the fire service or the prison service or the Guyana police force. We can't scrutinize them by calling them, and they are compelled to answer questions. That is like the congressional committees that you got in America, where the congressmen or the senators could go and say, well, we want to scrutinize this institution called the FBI, and we want to understand why things have gone wrong. And they compel them, they must come. If they don't come, we could jail them. But this man ain't even calling any further meetings. I think he get instruction from Jagdeo that he mustn't hold any political parliamentary security meeting. The same thing with Foreign Relations Committee. We have foreign relations issues with CARICOM, with Venezuela. We have friends in Brazil that can help us, and so many other things. You know, we got big problem with Venezuela, and only 2 times they have met at a Foreign Relations Committee. 2 times. And that is when they wanted our support. Then they run to us. And Amanza, well, of course, we gave them all the support. But now they stop, they halt. You know, now the demand take over by a decree stating that Essequibo is his. Now they probably going to want to meet again. But that is thorough nonsense, you know, and it's despicable a way to govern a country. Your parliamentary committees must be meeting regularly. And that is basic needs man that came from Britain a couple of years ago, about 12 to 15 years ago. He had done a basic needs as to how you must get your parliament running in 1999-2000 period. All of that have collapsed. These guardrails have all collapsed. And so that is what, you know, we had to tell them about. And we want also commissions, like the Petroleum Commission. Vikram Bharat still wants to handle the oil thing along with the bigger Bharat. What we had done in the law is to have the Petroleum Commission. They amended that even to lessen the amount of people and so on inside. They will have what you call powers to deal with all what you call the oil matters and the gas matters.
Control free
They want to implement that. So that commission has not even been established yet. Although they passed a year ago the new Oil and Gas and the Natural Resource Act. They haven't gotten it functioning. So this is all, you know, shameless acts in the PPP.
Shameless actions indeed. And, you know, guys, talking about that. Folks, if you're now joining us, we have with us leader of the Alliance for Change, Kembraj Ramjadan, the vice chairman of the Alliance for Change, Ricky Narayan Ramsrup, and of course, yours truly, Sherry Duncan, the general secretary. And we've been talking thus far about a recent engagement by the Alliance for Change of the ABC EU ambassadors, and also some of the issues that came out about good governance in this country, a more robust GCOM, a more robust and active parliament, and that is where you have caught us now. Kemraj, quite recently you were talking about all the things in this country that are going to the dogs. I mean, the intersector, and we don't say these things lightly just for cheap political points. But almost every sector you examine in this country, there is something that is massively, massively wrong with it. And I know agriculture, it's near and dear to you. You grew up in an agriculture community. You do have relatives who still live there. A man who understands agriculture, businessman Tony Vera, has been very livid. I think he should be commended for his courage. Never mind, in 2020, he was a candidate for the People's for the People's Progressive Party Civic, Tony Vera. He's now regretting, Kemraj, that he agreed, in his own words, that he agreed to be a candidate for the PPP in 2020. He says, unknowingly being part of that fraud. This is his own words. Kemraj, you'd be quite interested to know that he says that the Ministry of Agriculture is completely dysfunctional. I know we speak to a lot of folks from Berbice here. Completely dysfunctional as an organization, including the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, NDIA. More interestingly, Kemraj and Ricky, he says that, for instance, in agriculture, and this is now to do with sugar precisely, the 2024 forest crop is almost complete, and we don't even have 6,000 tons of sugar made as yet. Albion got 1,200 cane cutters and only worked 16 days so far in the cane cutting year. This is mainly a result of reaping 2024 first crop in the second crop in 2023, according to Tony Vera. He says the first time in the history that IFLOT has made more sugar than Albion. He says giving more money to Gaisuko is like pouring water on a duck's back. Your thoughts?
No, but he's coming around, especially to believing what now we have been saying for years since we were in coalition government. We had indicated that this industry got to get a major overhaul. It has to be right-sized. It has to be, because it was largely, Gaisuko was largely an employment agency of the PPP. Sugar was merely a byproduct. If you understand, that was the comment I saw in one of the commentaries. Gaisuko is an employment agent to the PPP, and sugar is a mere byproduct. Now look, we had said in a brilliant analysis done by Clive Thomas and a set of people that because the young people do not want to cut cane, you're going to always have a short supply. In addition, because the oil sector is going to bloom, you're going to go lots of these young people will want to go into the oil sector and also the other business sectors that the oil will be a foundation from. So you got to understand that you're not going to get, it's always going to have short. And then it's slave work, literally cutting cane. No decent family member want their siblings or want their daddy to be cutting cane in an oil sector economy that brings in $2 billion a year. Come on. And we indicated as much that that is what's going to happen. So that is why we got to right size the thing. But as soon as they coming back, they're gone and bring back this estate and that estate and say they're going to expand now by 5,000 hectares at Blairmont and Albion. And I understand the president was there recently saying that we're going to do expansion. I think it's at Skeldon, and so on. Look, it is, as he is saying, it's a black hole. The more money you put inside, you're going to see none of it. And in addition, I must tell you that climate change in Guyana, the sun is really hot. And it is diminishing the quality of the plants and all kinds of things. You're not going to get cane growing as tall as it was. I saw a video recording of the cane shark just like the cutlass. And that is what climate change will have. Climate change is going to have a real impact on these cane plants and so on. And then additionally, even if you mechanize and you convert so much land into what you call land ready for mechanization farming, right? The production cost with all that mechanization that will come is going to be almost 28 cents per pound US. When you now go to sell that sugar, you're going to sell for 12 to 15 cents per pound. What kind of jagdeo voodoo economics is that? What kind of nonsense is that? That is what you're going to do, take the oil monies and then give away free monies to the people overseas? Because it's you using 28 cents to make a pound of sugar and then you're selling it to them for 12 and 15 cents, 13 cents. You're giving charity. What kind of madness is that? But people don't understand that what we did there, that was the correct thing, knowing very well that the children of the future not going to want to even go into the hot sun morning time, get a wife to wake up 2 o'clock in the morning for cook and so on for them for go chop cane. This cane cutter mentality deliberately is wanted by the PPP though, because they're going to be people who they could talk stupidness to. They listen to them and they go and vote for them. And that is what is happening in the industry. I see that they're doing all manner of things to people who are catching sense, like those 21 sugar workers that I'm representing at the New Amsterdam Magistrates Court. Those people now realize that they have been cheated and they went and they protest. And you know what? They charge them with terrorist activities charges. Terrorist, they are deeming 21 sugar workers with. Yes, it is not as if it was an unlawful procession of some sort, a summary minor offense and so on. Terrorist under the Cybersecurity Act. That is how they are treating their own people. And that is why people in the estate areas in Berbice are getting very angry with them. And they're right to get angry. Plus, of course, we know that they're hardly getting 3 square meals to eat now in that
Yeah.
estate area. Plenty of them telling you, we ask now to get 2 square meals a day because of the high cost of living, high cost of vegetables, high cost of meat and fish and everything else. And they hardly getting any work. There's no production bonus for them, nothing. And then you still want to go and expand the sugar industry? Why don't make some golf courses or something and sports or some other thing? See some other very good activities, or let people plant some other plant that, or do prawns production or something new. No, but they want into the skin cutter mentality. And it is going to be disastrous for this country.
Yeah, and this is part of what the last administration started doing. Weaning people off of the cane cutting mentality and retraining people, repurposing people into other areas of the economy. Everybody can go out on an oil rig or being involved in some oil producing activity, but there's a number of other things that the last administration began retraining sugar workers and former sugar workers into doing. Ricky, just this week, the government said that they hope to produce 100,000 tons of cane this year. And like Kemrad says, plant over 5,000 hectares. That's part of their plan. They also got plans that don't come to fruition in the sugar sector, the sugar industry, and lots of other areas. This 5,000 hectares being planted up is aimed at ensuring optimal factory operation. They're asking for miracles. They gone beyond the realm of governance.
You see, Kamraj is absolutely right. It's the sugar mentality. I recall I had lots of arguments with some of my friends. Why are we trying to force the people to go back to the sugar plantation? Indentured laborship. That's why I came in here to Guyana. Today we have over 4 or 5 decades of living and developing Guyana. We have brought a new sector, the oil and gas, which can alleviate this entire country out of poverty. The entire country can be elevated out of poverty from this here. We have to train people differently. Trinidad closed down the sugar cane. Barbados, other countries around the Caribbean, they didn't see the benefit of it because of the same labor issue. Guyanese used to left from Guyana here to go to Barbados and Trinidad to cut cane. Today, we went, those same sugar workers Cameron is speaking about. Imagine them complaining, said, "Bye, Ricky, this sun really hot." I recall when I used to work at Gaisuku, that's where I started my career. By the time 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, the cane cutters are already back home because they finished the task. And I predicted then 2006, I was a young guy now joining the management team in Gaisuku, saying that Gaisuku will collapse. And I went to university and studied, because I left Gaisuku 2006. I had to study forestry, and that's what developed my skills because it was a new sector was coming up. Because Gaisuku then, I recall, I know a little stupid boy making a comment like that he will fail. I said, people looking at me, but I didn't understand him to understand it because I see the way how the management used to operate. Gaisuku lost a lot of money through management. And I don't want to use the word with this called thieving, you understand? A lot of money was going away, wasted resources, chemicals, fertilizers.
And the thieving used to go on there.
Yeah, and at that time we used to do 9 months, 6 and 9 months flood follow, and that's why they asked Zulfak and Parliament if they're continuing to do those flood follow, because those flood follow is the one that comes to bring the real sweet from the soil so that the sugarcane will grow healthy. Now you get them stunted. At that time when you had a drought season, we used to have we call it pump. We used to put it in the canal, we used to pump and water the cane. I don't know if they're doing those kind of things now. They're depending on rain. And when rain falls, they say they got flood. These kind of things. So the governance of this country here is a backward economics, Camera. That was the word I was trying to tell you. It is a backward economics how the country is running.
It's Jagdale voodoo economics, man.
Camera, we have to invest in the people of this country through training and education. We got to make education free. Get the sugar workers, the youths to go and train and get them educated in these different sectors. There are other service sectors that's coming up from the oil and gas.
Right. That's right.
We got to prepare these people. Guys, we don't have plenty Sheridan cameras. We got about 300,000 people who are going to be in the working areas.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
get smart, when you prepare people and you make them smart and they become more educated, they are harder for you to put foolishness in their heads. That is what the PPP has always been afraid of. Bright people. Because bright people going to argue back with them jagabats there. You understand me? But when you ain't got the education or the information and so on, they could come and tell you all kind of Nancy story.
Yeah.
And then when they tell you all the Nancy story, they could twist up your head, toss up your head, and then they say, you must vote PPP, you know. And then you go and you put the X next to the cup.
Yeah,
And that is,
and
primarily it. That is primarily it.
depending on who you ask, Kemraj and Ricky, they say that Vice President Barjali, bright body, bright, 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 bright. You know, we don't have a lot of press conferences by ministries individually in this country. Everything is done essentially by Mr. Jal. He's answered the question. He know everything. There was a man back in history. They call him Erasmus. He was touted to have known everything. But he more bright. He trained Erasmus. He bright for everybody. Can imagine be so bright. Why this country looking the way it looks? We just talked about some of the issues. Just a couple of them. At Gaisuko, for instance. You look across at the energy sector, the power sector. What's happening at GPL? The same bright vice president came out just last week. He said things bad at GPL. Things bad at Gaisuko, the fire, the CEO. Things bad at GPL. Things bad in the mining sector.
Things bad also with rice, and the Barbicians must hear me out on this.
Rice. Yeah.
This bug, Gandhi, we just call it, eating up about 25% of the production that we ought to get. 25% it will be lowered by because of this bug that the climate change has caused. This bug thrives on dry weather, okay? And we have been having dry weather in the country. And a lot of the trenches don't get the amount of water that we used to get, even in dry weather. And so a lot of the farmers are crying. I went, Bobby's there to see my mom. And I talked to a couple of them because I went up to Skeldon and so on. And let me tell you something. All of them crying out that they're going to make big losses this time. And that too, along with sugar and so on. So when Jagdeo getting up and talking nonsense, it's because he is in a real bad state and he wants to fool his people. That is what he's doing. Fooling them. The state, even with security and so on, are in bad shape. We see more cocaine. We see more marijuana production and transshipment of cocaine via Guyana and so on. All of them things come back now. We had a good thing going with the British security sector report and all kind of thing. But do not take, Bharat is an extremely deceitful chap when it comes to all these propaganda. And you like to put all the blame on what the APNU AFC coalition did. That is where we're throwing it. GPL now, look at what is happening there. Blackouts. I hear Barbicians are suffering the most. You know why? Because he feel that Barbicians can take it. Because Barbicians don't like to criticize the PPP and Jagdeo.
Yeah.
So give them more blackout than anybody else. Because people might get vexed in other areas. But Barbicians, they could take it, man. They suffer the women, what you call it, the battered women syndrome. The more you seem to demolish them, the more they love you. And that is what is happening here. It's kind of a battered woman syndrome they're suffering. And I am urging Barbicians, don't take it like that. If you got to come out the other day, some of them called me in my office here. And I said, please, could I make a 25 protest placards and I can come up by quarantine there and y'all can help protest? Man, nah, man. What are you calling me for? You don't want to get up and get, but you want other people to do it for you. You have to learn to do it yourself. And this kind of democracy that Jagdeo like to spout is not a genuine democracy. Democracy means free and fair elections, but it also means good governance. It means rule of law. It means so many other things. Transparency and accountability. We want to see how monies are spent. So much money was given away to people for that flood and flood relief and fishermen.
Yep. Farmers cash grant, COVID cash grant.
Yeah, we know who get the money. And that is how we're going to suffer. Bad governance is sometimes worse an aspect in a democracy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this AFC and our recommendations.
Before you go on that, couple of things here. Let me just take on the rice. Look, Sherrod mentioned the economy, how we governance, how it's happening there. Every sector in this country has declined over the last 4 years since the BP took office. Declined significantly. Rice, sugar, bauxite, gold, diamond, forest, fish, every sector declined. And you see this next year budget speech here, we're going to hammer them. Let me tell you something. You know why? Government has an opportunity to decide where they want to spend this money. And you know where these guys are spending the money? In the infrastructure.
Yeah.
In infrastructure that does not benefit almost 80% of this population.
Correct.
Few. And this is where the mentality lies. And we know that during this infrastructure development is the most highest in the world for corruption. In the world standard is 16% of corruption will happen in these construction sector. In Guyana here, we must see that was 35 to 40% already corruption.
Yes, and
that's why half of the money is being thieved, is going away. So you will find that the economy here in all the other sectors is in decline, Sherrod.
Correct.
I see a bit. Pump how much? About 30 million in a rice field, 5 acre or 10 acre, and want to develop a play field. So people are utilizing now the land to do other things.
Correct.
Because they're not spending the effort. I see they're going to build a road for Ibini. The agriculture, $394 million for a road to go to Ibini. Ibini that abandoned the thing for years and born. I'm trying to develop that area into agriculture sector. It is good for cattle rearing. No cattle dying in Barbados of drought. They don't have water system. There is no mechanism in the agriculture sector to help these people. The water, you gotta take this. This is a drought season. You know it's coming. It's the same thing in Rupununi. I'm saying. You know the drought season. You know the rainy season. You have to dig reservoir in certain areas to trap water. We gotta start to modernize and revolutionize this agriculture sector.
Because we have the financing to do it.
That's right. We get enough money to do it.
We have the financial, and one of the other areas that we have to look at. Kermit was about to go there, is the security sector. Now we seem to be going back to the pre-2015 days. People being gunned down, businessmen being killed, robberies, kicked down the door. You name it. Serious crimes in this country on the rise, despite because they are trying to tell us this it's not happening. We saw at Ittering Bang recently, Chinese managed supermarket, the owner was killed. We saw the Chinese ambassador and team visiting the commissioner of police, saying that, what's happening here with their community is untenable. And this is not just the Chinese community, it's across the board. This is happening. Kamraj, talk to us about this. This is central to you as former minister.
Is not only the murders, the aggravated robberies, we have road fatalities.
Oh, yes.
Every day you get somebody dying on the roads in Guyana. Domestic violence, man beating up his wife. Activities which make Guyana almost insecure in every respect. And then the corruption levels, petty and large scale, running riot in government quarters and even in the various government institutions. This thing has a tremendous consequence about investors wanting to come to Guyana. When they feel that Guyana is an insecure place, they're not going to come.
Yeah, right.
And then our bright professional minds, our skilled people, don't want to live here because of this crime. Although we got oil and all of that, they're going to want not to live here. So our brain drain will continue, and the investors will not want to come. At least the decent investors. You're going to get transnational criminalized organizations wanting to come because it's like a failed state and a criminalized state and so on. And that is why at our last press conference, I tried as best to say that we have to get consensus in this. And the AFC is putting out a couple points here in relation to what will bring back this country into a more secure nation state. We want to we must recommend the implementation of those recommendations we had by the British security sector set of recommendations. I understand that a British expert is now coming back to implement them. 3 years pass and they didn't do nothing with them. They get back now, they realize the thing is getting out of hand, and they call back for the lady that came with Russell Coombe. We must craft a policing strategy that is compatible with democracy and not a strongman, iron-fisted state. This strongman state is being created by especially Jagdeo. He is not supposed to be there, as I've been telling Barbicians for a long, long time. 2 terms and you must go along your way, like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And that is what the Constitution Convention is, that you can't come back in a sneaky way and call yourself vice president and say, well, the Constitution only talk about president can't serve more than 2 terms. And then you doing it de facto by this trickery, and you go and you in charge of the country. We got to also actively work with communities to prevent public from distrusting policemen. The public in Guyana distrust the policemen. So we got to work with the police to make them big brothers rather than bullies and so on. That is an important point. And we got to incentivize the police so that they will be good brothers by effective, training and also selection and promotion procedures. Remember, when they promote them set of people, when the former Police Service Commission had
Correct.
done something, the Paul Slow Commission. They let Paul Slow. They said, no, we don't want that set of people. They gone and put in their set of people to be running the police force, and look, the whole bloody thing now collapsing. And you got to deliver better salaries and benefits to these people too. Housing and so on, now that you got the oil money. But also very important is implementing rigorous evaluation programs through polygraph testing of our senior officers and so on. Regularly, you got to do that. Polygraph tests to find out whether they're doing mischief and so on at the upper levels. It is all across the other countries. We got to also expand this smart city project that I had started in Stabrook area and a couple places in Georgetown. And so we got to screen the people around that are doing all kinds of mischief. In relation to the road fatalities, we also have to enhance road signing infrastructure. They got some new roads and so on making now, and they ain't got no yellow paint in the middle to make sure the drivers in bad conditions can know where they are. Although I still believe that it's irresponsibility on the part of drivers too. They drive with speed, they're drunk and they drive, and all manner of things, killing people. And very importantly are these 2 last ones. We got to halt the politicization of the law enforcement agencies. Guyanese lose confidence once they see or perceive that our officers are prioritizing the interests of the PPP as against the country. And that is what I see happening now too. Only this morning, them boys in Enmore called me, the Young Guns Cricket Club. And they said that they wanted to raise funds to buy ball and bat and so on, and they organized a barbecue. And they went for the permission to the magistrate. The magistrate gave them 12 o'clock night time as to end the barbecue, because people can start come and play the games and so on from 8 o'clock. The policeman, because of some PPP fella telling the police chief there, drop it down to 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, the police come and lock up the people when customers were now coming in to buy barbecue and so on. You're politicizing the thing. You don't do that. Them and more boys now get vexed with them, And then finally, we got to convene this parliamentary committee so that we can scrutinize the PPP. We can call up the commissioner, Mr. Hicken. We would like you to come to this parliamentary committee. We want to see what is happening in that area, this area, and also why is it that this person is not doing why the infrastructural work with police stations not going on, and so on. Whatever was the program they had, was all the money spent last year as it ought to have been spent. That is what they used to do me inside of that parliamentary committee. Ask Gail Teixeira and Ben and a fellow named Harry Gill. They wanted us to pay for plane flights to go into the interior to check on all the police stations and so on. Now, 3.5 years, excepting the first meeting, we have never had a meeting. We can't go anywhere. We can't go inspect non-police station. We can't talk about the complaints that we are receiving as well and get the minister to answer. This is very, very important. So we would like the government to understand our, I think it's about 10 points that we made there, our 10-point plan in relation to getting the security sector back on track.
Correct. Yeah. So lots still got to be done. Even I know we're running out of time here. We haven't had a chance to talk yet about the 2 new planes from India that folks have said cost us the price before.
Corruption. That is big corruption.
How do you call it, Ricky? Backward economics.
Backward economics.
Yeah, and David Patterson did a kind of investigation and found out that each one of those planes is $7.5 million most. And we pay how much? $24 million for 2 planes?
Yeah.
What kind of nonsense is that? And then you don't want to pay the teachers the couple dollars. 28 million would take care of the teachers. US dollars. They got to buy 2 airplanes and they can starve them teachers now. That is what kind of voodoo economics drag they. And everybody has surhawe him.
Right, boy.
Camarade, is the same thing that happening to this generator that about 17 reconditioned generator. Out of the 17 reconditioned generator, only 4 working.
Use a second hand.
We had a policy within the procurement system, especially for GPL, that you can only purchase new generator.
Brand new.
During our tenure, we do 9 based on the power. What do you call it? The measurement that we anticipate that we're gonna have, the consumption in terms of the megawatts. These guys now gonna bought second-hand generator for our country. Guyana, for me, Sharad, has become like a junkyard. Second-hand plane. Second-hand coming in here. We
stove, used tires.
Used tires. Generator, new, reused. I wouldn't even be surprised if the firearm that we are bringing for our security army, I think, are all second-hand. You understand? Because this guy's mental, and the price that we are paying for these things can bought brand new.
Yeah.
That's right.
And therefore, I am calling when we get back there, and I will bring this up with the diplomatic community that we need to do forensic audit to these guys, because this thing is unfair for our citizens here that we busting we back here, passively busting we back here. And the man is just taking all this money, 3-4 times price of the thing. I heard that somebody looking for 4 generators somewhere in Brazil and Trinidad, some Trinidad company.
You're not getting value for money spent.
That's correct.
Not getting the value, absolutely.
And that has to be a cause of concern.
It is very much troublesome. And this is why we're going to deplete our resources that we are getting from the oil, and we are not going to getting anywhere. Our country will not going to move. Economically, it will not move.
I know we got so much to discuss. We need like 3 hours just to scratch the surface and things happening locally. But I want to close up this evening by talking a little bit about what's happening on our western borders with Venezuela. I hope I get my geography correct. With Venezuela, we seem to have, and the Camarade, you did talk about some of this when we started this program. We seem to have taken our eyes off the ball. We seem to have put a lot of confidence in the Argyle Declaration, which seemed to have been burnt, the paper torn up and burnt and all of that. And Maduro is doing what Maduro does best. It's trying to covet what is ours, our Essequibo, not Essequibo, or whatever they call it, and any organic law and this kind of foolishness. And we know people who wanted to give a channel out someplace to the Venezuelans. Now, Kenraj, this has a lot of implications. We talked earlier on about security locally that can impact foreign investors, but this seems to already been impacting folks. You might have missed a lot of us, but during the course of the week, a company called Dollar, Dolla, Dollar Guyana Inc., it's an international company, has moved its services to Jamaica. It says it's making more money in Jamaica. It moves its money to Jamaica. And this is an article out of the Jamaica Observer. And the reason why Cameron and Ricky it gave for moving its company, it says this is owing to the current geopolitical uncertainty. And this referring here to Venezuela. It has moved its assets now to Jamaica. Quite interesting.
Look, it has tremendous consequences what Maduro has done. And we are foolishly following this PPP government who don't want any advice from the opposition. And I would like to tell them in the PPP and Jagdeo and Irfan and all of them that in the APNU AFC coalition set of members, we got some people who understand that issue very, very well and know how to deal at a diplomatic level and so on with the Maduro's developments. But they don't want us. They just conveniently want us to support them when they do a parliamentary motion and then they abandon us. Now the man is, and we had warned them that Argyle thing has implications. Okay, it probably was good intentioned at that time, and we should, go there and probably sign it on. But we also warned that this fella is a little crazy fella.
Yeah.
Wants madness to happen in Venice, in Esquibo there, and what he has done. Because I understand just after he did what he did, and then he started piling up a set of military equipment and so on in the border to Guyana there. A lot of the gold mining companies, big fellas, start reducing their investments in that area. They got scared, just like the dollar incorporated. There will be consequences in relation to investment if we don't get that thing right. And if it is one thing that we got to learn to do to Essequibo, it's to populate it. And you can populate it by getting investors wanting to go there. So if the investors are scared, you're not going to get it populated with Guyanese. It is going to be populated with Venezuelans. And it will be a soft invasion. You don't got to shoot no gun, as I mentioned. But more than the soft invasion, my dear, it is going to be a whole set of people running away from there, like Dollar has started. Because this government don't want to utilize the parliament and the entire government and opposition to have consensual positions, and that is what we will end up with. And they don't know how to deal with these things. They don't know.
Unfortunately. As we wrap up, Ricky, final thoughts.
Yeah, no, Cameron is absolutely right. Those policies, you gotta be vision. You gotta be a man of visionary to see those policies that Cameron is talking about. And I don't want to discuss it here, but I'm gonna throw it out here. There's some of the business that you can set up in Essequibo. And let me give you a typical one that I'm thinking about, and which I've done some research on. And you gotta be smart about it. Right at Esquibo, at the Atlantic front, there are certain countries that requires to do like a servicing of warship, planes. You get a big wharf outside there, and you bring those guys in to provide facilities for you. You provide a service. They pay you there. Those are the guys who want to utilize those front. Right? Now, you got to listen to how I'm speaking. If you bring those services there for those people, they will love it. They will come to a shorter distance, like Spain, Amsterdam. Those countries are shorter, that can come bring a service there. They don't have to go wrong far to do their servicing of their fleets. Yeah, into the American ship can come into service there. These are the kind of businesses you got to set up. We got to stop this thing every time Venezuela have an election. They're going to threaten Guyana, and that is why Esquibo. There's no investors wanting to come. We have to think beyond. We have to think out of the box, Sherrod, as to what we want to do. And that's just a hint I want to give you of that kind of business. I have some meetings set up to discuss those kind of business, and I think I'm getting some very good response to it from high people.
That's excellent.
High people.
Final thoughts, Cambridge. Thanks very much, Ricky.
No.
Final thoughts, Cambridge, as we wrap up.
Yeah, look, I just want Barbicians to listen to us. And even if you don't want to accept what we are saying, understand what we are saying. and compare it with what Jagdeo and them are saying. Again, you will understand our perspective. They will give you their perspective. And I just want you to be balanced, and I want you to be reasonable. Y'all are punishing out there. There is no doubt in my mind. And you must not continue and perpetuate that punishment onto yourself. That is unholy. So please, just listen to us, give us a hearing, and I think sense will prevail ultimately. Thank you very much, and a very good night to you.
All right, that's going to do it for us at this end for this Saturday. Thanks for joining Alliance on the Move, a production of Alliance for Change. And folks, we got a lot to consider over this coming weekend. Do stay safe, folks. We're going to see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.